afternoon, ladies and gentlemen! Welcome to another exciting, riveting, and amazing Propagandacast. With me, your host, Imperial Dane, the one and only Master Propaganda Heroes, like defender of the fatherland of it, everything and amazing 1v1. On road to Tunis, in the west it is, the one and only Stephenn of Australia, fighting here for the Deutsches Afrika Korps, setting forth with the 21st Panzer Division, these are the Shinshigumi. Fighting here for freedom, democracy, and liberty with the US First Armoured Division. We got double scouts, Gypsy versus Panzer Grenadiers and Panzer Pioneer out of Stephenn. So, we'll have to see what this ends up with. At least it doesn't look like immediately any 30 counts out of Shinshigumi. As always, a big hearty thanks to my patrons, supporters for the continued and steadfast support of the Propagandacast, bankrolling the war efforts. A big thanks to those, and a big thanks to all those who keep commenting and liking the videos. Helps immensely spreading up the propaganda further. So we got more punches here for Stephenn, no Bessier or anything like that, just good old-fashioned German mechanized / motorized infantry. Got engineers there for Shinshigumi, so far no riflemen though. Keep rushing ahead here, no armored choice, for example, to have to keep grab points. Could mean he might actually be planning heavy weapons after all, or perhaps he's just in a state where he's like not entirely sure where he wants to go, so he's keeping both heavy weapons and armored up. Airborne is sort of one of the things that can still happen, you know? You know, like maybe, whoopsie, he needs some anti-tank guns because the man's like, mis-tech, but we'll have to see. So far, though, steady progress on both sides, deep and aggressive patrolling. Might also be just once, like, see if it couldn't catch a bike and destroy, in which case, of course, Stephenn just going for Panzer Grenadiers does, funnily enough, make it a bit harder for the Jeep to do his job. We get a 250 half-ton there for Stephenn, the lighter Schützen Panzerwagen, typically part of the Panzer Division's Aufklärungsabteilung. Typically be a few platoons mounted in these 250 half-tracks, typically meant to support the armoured cars, but are going to do reconnaissance. And most of the time they just end up serving like another armoured Panzer Grenadier battalion because, well, they really wanted more of those, and so they made do with the next big thing, was just making use of the reconnaissance troops. There's a little fun. 1 minute for you back in. Deep engaged with the Panzer forces team, quickly concentrating forces up north. Another Panzer squad here. Medium with the vanguard of Shinshigumi and democracy. Got the 250 up here. Even as Shinshigumi descends on the fuel point, we also got some flare guns on the way there. After rushing in, trying to keep those Bedumpten Yankees off the fuel point. We got the Panzer forwards here. Definitely have to move fast here. In the south, Panzer Pioneer busy. Deep hitting a fair bit of damage. The half-takes also taking even more damage. We have the Panzers finally grabbing, narrowly saving the fuel point there from neutral. Close call here for Stephenn and Das Vaterland. Almost got the scout team here. Very low on health there. Running out. And gone. Gaining veterans 1.5 track right off the bat is not bad at all here for Stephenn. It gets a bit more fast, which is typically not the biggest deal, but it doesn't hurt. Saying it really, it's only effective if he really gets like, the fun stuff like, suppression, damage, and survivability. Further south here, Punk's being pushed back. Here we got another Panzer Grenadier squad on the way there for Stephenn. So we got scouts sitting out here once more. We got some riflemen for Shinshigumi, but still no battle group. Come on. But the fact he's going for riflemen definitely has to be thinking could be a bit more lightly armoured. But even there, you still see some just go for heavy weapons because just going for the Pershing is nice and easy. Do not underestimate what the power of nice and easy can cause people to do.
The victory point is under attack. We must
Northfield Panzergram Northern Victory Point here. We got the light support coming in for Stephenn and Das Vaterland. Bang, maybe some machine guns, assault grenadiers, flank filling half, of course, very likely. Shinshigumi going for the BAR, but only 2 rifle squads. And versus the DAK. I mean, obviously, he's seeing a lot of infantry to Stephenn, so it does make sense to an extent he wants the BAR, but even there, versus the DAK, there's a lot of risk associated with the BAR because if you, make a mistake and they suddenly hit you with a lot of light vehicles, you're going to have sunk a lot of fuel into the BAR instead of, any counters to the light vehicles, so this is a risky move there with Shinshigumi from his perspective. Of course, from our perspective, we do know it's not going to get wildly punished by Stephenn right away. But again, we're just look at it from Shinshigumi's perspective, and he doesn't have all the details here, unless he's using some bad things. This is actually a pretty risky move, so it's one of those things that, from one perspective, of course, the viewer's perspective, all knowing, fine. But again, if we're to like just isolate the knowledge we have from Stephenn, it gets a bit more tricky. Worth keeping in mind here. That's always the sort of like things you have to keep in mind during a match, like, you know, with the knowledge you have at hand. But anyways, no, also both noting badly from Stephenn, but from Stephenn, he's very much one of those more cautious players. He tends not to always dive into it, though sometimes he will, but a lot of the time Stephenn tends to be a bit more, you know, waiting. And of course, might be the same for Shinshigumi. It's just, on average, you know, it tends to be like, you know, just very much these two. As for Stephenn, it could be any of the three options. Another rifle here for Shinshigumi. I mean, you definitely want some number of rifles really like leverage having BARs. Otherwise, it's not a bad upgrade, but cost-efficient wise, it may not quite be worth the investment. Stephenn here, though, boldly moves straight for the mechanized company, Stub Martyrs.
Rifleman ready.
Captain here.
Sector gone. We must take it back.
Keep them being self-repaired. Noting that is also Veteran 1, but we don't really have any indicators to what is planned. I mean, it could just drop down weapons with it, 30 cals and whatnot, with mortars. Using munitions, which could also narrow them up for heavy weapons. So that's like one way to, like, you know, actually still get some usage out of the battle group and its support weapon elements, without necessarily going for a weapon support center. That would be an interesting choice there of Shinshigumi. Notable path here, but so far, yeah, that's it. No, that's exactly what he's doing. I completely missed that because I was so caught up in the Jeep getting repaired and the possibility of it, I completely ignored the actuality of it. Good going there, man. But yeah, so that's exactly, at least with the Jeep, what he's doing. We don't know if this means heavy weapons, but it could be like a way. And we got Stephenn there with armored support, the number one, I find, DAK battle group, a lot in 1v1s. Like Shore Panzer is probably like the second most used in tank combined arms, but armored support just continues to be a heavily used battle group because it is just so broadly applicable. Has like options for a lot of scenarios, provides you salvage for like, you know, a bit of extra resources, and can just like be picked at like any point in the match. And you never really made a wrong choice by doing so compared to like other battle groups. If you don't pick them early, they might be feeling you like, you know, any kind of way. Stephenn there with the 250-9, thumbs up. Certainly a companion in the armored support. And it's also like a really good piece of advice, by the way. Just very proposing here. But if you see a 250-9, a good portion of the time, like, you know, at certain levels, I mean, probably not at the really low ranks, but at a certain, like, you know, rank level and above, if you see this one, they are almost always going for armored support because they want that ability to, like, boost the traction machine gun on it. Like, theoretically, you could go for something else, but a lot of the time, I mean, almost all of the time, they're going to go for armored support to, like, you know, get more out of this one. So that's a quick piece of advice there. Like, you know, a bit of a hint, a tip, if you will, to, like, you know, trying to figure out what the opponent's up to. Again, you can see that one, and you know he's got this in selection, he's picked it. So rushing the assault grenadiers and DC, watching the retreat here as the charging Germans come rolling in there, guns blazing.
Territory out of supply. They've cut us off.
Going in with AP-40s, laying down some heavy fire there on the retreating Americans. We get some barbed and rifle moving up here. Keep moving in as well here. Cutter point being seized. Do have a motor pool here. Could go for a grenade assault. There you go, grenade assault. Tearing through the Shinshigumi's riflemen, leading them in tatters. As the cutter point is seized by one of the 250-9s.
We're losing it.
Were basically just armored cars. Meant to replace the 222 armored car, actually. Good. But here they sort of displayed like this infantry fighting vehicle, which they weren't really. Not to say the Germans didn't use some armored half-techs like that. Typically the command, a platoon leader vehicle, you know, typically like you had a bigger gun, kind of saw servers in that role. Could be equipped with a variety of guns. In fact, some of the later ones would in fact be equipped with a sort of training autocannon for that particular purpose. Guys, they had like typically like anti-tank guns just to fire, you know, small high explosive shells to support the infantry, occasionally blast the vehicle with an armor pistol. Little fun fact there. Got the half-track moving southwards here. Seeing the Pentagon here might be indicating he also wants to go for the 250 upgrade on that one. But Shinshigumi, though, despite everything, is yet to pick a battle group here. Also forced to grab the fuel point outside of his own base back here from Stephenn. Do get the M24 Chaffee light tank on the way here. North E caught up on because he's capturing in against the Panzer Pioneer, and further up north E, got the Engineers with 30 cal support, and the Jeep here against the Panzer Dynamics. Yeah, right now Stephenn's got a good hold here on Shinshigumi's economy, really hurting him here and there, denying him plentiful, bountiful resources. Northeast 50 cal, 30 cal ready.
We're losing it.
Using the victory point there.
Chaffee has arrived.
Got the M24 Chaffee light tank out.
Captured a victory point.
Moving forward, not seeing any service in North Africa, that's for sure. Very late war thing has been to replace this to a light tank. A little side note, after all, they actually come up with an entire coverage of this one.
Territory sector claimed by the enemy.
Rather than under fire, opening up in the 250 gun soldier. Chaffee moving in here, looking to strike out Stephenn's armored half tracks here. Rather than taking heavy damage, Chaffee charging, good shot on the 250-9. Got that boost ability there. Grenades from Shinshigumi. Almost had it there, but clearly not willing to go into the base. Out of concern that, you know, there could be some nasty things not against Chaffee. Which does make a fair bit of sense here for Shinshigumi and the forces of freedom and democracy. Mines up here. Sandbags, other fun things that the Shinshigumi. Definitely looking to return the favour here to Stephenn. Also get the flares off here. Bases you can sort of like, you know, see like, you know, if there's going to be like an immediate response to this, in which case you can quickly get out of it. So, thumbs out the Shinshigumi. I would say that is a fairly savvy move. Freshman troops here. Chaffee hanging back.
No route too challenging.
Grabbing the northern point, we got an M1 anti-tank gun for Shinshigumi. Concerned about, of course, possible armor there out of Stephenn, though. Despite the mechanized company so far there out of Stephenn, we have actually yet to see anything come out of it. Heavy armored cars, the DAK, the DAK, no Armadas, no 254s. I mean, we do know he's got support armor elements researched, but even that has, like, so far not exactly resulted in any students. So, there's only some questions as to what Stephenn could be scheming about. Like, he's not going to upgrade both of his armored half tracks. Grenade assault here. The open card. Theoretically, it would make more sense for Force to breach the building, but the problem is breach is so easily countered by just going out to the building, then grenading the unit, trying to breach it. Not exactly tuned this ability very well, and so far they just seem to be ignoring it, unfortunately. Anti-tank and scouts move up north. The American forces hold up here. And there you go. Stuk 3D there for Stephenn.
Enemy movement near a victory point.
Stephenn, a enjoyer of the short-barreled Stuks. Also in CoH3, he was a
Beginning
big fan
improvements
of
to
it
our
there.
infantry logistics.
Got the Chaffee there roaming about. Good old advanced logistics there for Shinshigumi. Certainly logistics were one of the Americans' great advantages during the Second World War. But we're still not seeing the battle for Shinshigumi again. Could still be heavy weapons, could still be armoured. So far we're not really seeing anything that significantly indicates one or the other at this point. Because again, you can like literally just ignore anything, still going to Pershing, still be in a really good position. So it's tough to say that Shinshigumi exactly is playing for two. Airborne is of course a possibility, but at this stage, what he's got in terms of forces placed are there, just I don't feel like it would make an awful lot of sense to go for airborne. It means he can still do it, but I would probably have to consider that a bit of a question mark. South, Rob's got to push back here. Stephenn strikes back heavily and aggressively with his assault troops. In the center here. Got some Panthers holding up here, applying some pressure there on Shinshigumi's northern flank here.
Jesus, do they ever stop?
There we go, Chaffee looking to knock it out. Actually, the anti-tank.
They have taken our victory
But I'll
point.
wait, Panthers evicted from the premises by threatening to collapse the premises on them. Stu D there on the move with the machine gun. taking it from the Stu D. Panzer goes in the Panzer Cantina. Pack 3 for Stephenn, clearly concerned about the Chaffee, but also the possibility of other things besides the Chaffee.
Enemy activity near our munitions point.
Got a Pack 38 and they're ready.
Further training will improve the survivability of our infantry in the field.
Rival training now at Shinshigumi. Still no battle group though.
Get to cover!
One of our sectors is now in enemy hands.
It's done, sir!
Two 250 half-tracks that Stephenn so far is not really choosing to upgrade either, other than not say into the 250-9 or the mortar half-track. From Northern Point, entertaining almost done there.
The revival training course is complete.
412 is 251.
Enemy at 250 points.
249 here for Stephenn.
Anti-tank team on the field.
Grenade off here.
Give him an answer, boys!
Stephenn attracting more force, while at the same time still maintaining a grip on the scent, but the south of the zone here for Shinshigumi pushing in there. Dashing back with the Chaffee, obviously concerned about getting hunted down here. Rifleman being whittled down, they just handed Bob and Larry here. They need to get out of there and down to this Bob.
Reports of enemy movement
And
near
Larry
our
down as well.
victory
That's a
point.
big blow that Shinshigumi losing an entire route squad. Yeah, the only thing that sort of made this less terrible for him was at least they didn't drop a BAR for the 300
Captured a
Still,
victory point.
not exactly great to lose like that much infantry like that in one go. That's a pretty sizable tactical win there for Stephenn. But the Chaffee might be able to do it to take out the Stoop.
Our
No.
barracks is under attack.
Oh, hits on mine as well. Shinshigumi there, having some issues. We got a 250 half-track rushing right through here as well. Anti-tank leader, anti-tank grenade taking out the Chaffee. Shinshigumi there, really not having a great time. We got 250 half-track guard here.
Been knocked out.
Okay, one. Grenades from the Panzer Peony. Anti-tank engaging, aggressive push with the one here. But we see this team making off with the other one. Still could be able to take out the Stu D here. No! Doesn't get it, didn't attack ground here, allowing the Stu D to escape effortlessly. Bit of a slip there by Shinshigumi. Steam really sound getting 250-9. Bit of extra resources.
Heavy losses!
Needing every last bit to get here versus the American war machine.
The enemy is
Scouts
stealing
about to get
ammunition
wiped out
points.
here. Entertainment's about to get destroyed here by Stephenn and the Pack 38. Panzer up their Kanone 8 und Beize
Lost
cleared out again
anti-tank
here.
gun.
Doing this time, and Stephenn wrecks it.
Orders coming down the pipe.
All right from there for Shinshigumi. Oh no, battle group again. It really feels like either armor here or heavy weapons, though.
Look, boys! Engineers have been upgraded!
Which of the two's going to pick is, of course, the bigger question. We got another Stu D there for Stephenn. Like any significant threats out there, Shinshigumi's like really threatening them. That does make a lot of sense.
Fuck me! They're taking pot shots at us!
If I had to go an instinct, the public probably say weapons is for Pershing. It ends up being, in some respects, being overall just a bit more straightforward than the call-in EC8.
Looks like we're command vehicle now.
Assault half-tracks will lead our boys to the front.
Bingo! It is, in fact, heavy weapons there out of Shinshigumi.
Boys are waiting.
Partly because manpower-wise, it's pretty close to the Sherman EC8, but the call-in, of course, costs more fuel, but at the same time, you do get a big, fast, mean tank that can really put some pressure on the opponent. And how it's right here. It is also worth noting, Stephenn right now only has that one Pack 38
The enemy have
like
taken
deal with a
territory from
potential
us.
Pershing, so all smooth sailing there for Stephenn. Of course, Shinshigumi still needs to get the Pershing out, and Stephenn is obviously going to make this a very, very painful task. He's going to, of course, apply as much pressure as he
The
can.
victory point is under
Perhaps he's
attack.
concerned about the Pershing, perhaps he isn't, perhaps just, you know, getting his opponent's hands he can, because, you know,
We have a
he
backlog
can.
of command points
So-
that need using.
So there's some room for potential interpretations there as well as the thought processes are behind all this. But are they?
We have
Second
anti-tank
instinct ready again for
reporting in.
Shinshigumi. We've got the grenade assault of scouts.
Just start
Very close here to Shinshigumi's base as well there. Stephenn finds himself under fire from one lone anti-tank crew.
Report coming through that the enemy is down to 200 points.
Versus 1 student charging at the GIs. All runners of freedom. And a 250 knocked out here with a double M1 entertainers, leaving Stephenn short one. Just with active one at this point here. And a sound charge from the student D. Oh, that was kind of close there. Stephenn was fast enough there.
Rifle squad and ball. Son of a bitch!
Coming in reaction time to the space of the sloth.
Commander, CPs are waiting to be used.
Double anti-tankers failed to make any significant damage to 3D as Shinshigumi's men come charging in there. Still a few more command from calling the Pershing versus Stephenn. Of course, this squad Stephenn is not directly any the wiser. Of course, he is a veteran player, and he's seen enough that he might, of course, be able to make a few deductions that the opponent is going for the Pershing, because they're still into tank, and which typically a lot of the time can indicate like big tank stall. But also, it's crucial, he hasn't really seen anything else there out of Shinshigumi that could indicate anything else. So, still need to assume either the Pershing and like kind of these hits make some amount of sense here.
Territory lost.
So very, very close to that Pershing here for Shinshigumi. I mean, fuel manpower-wise, a bit more to go similar command points-wise, but he's still roughly within that ballpark. Meanwhile, more rifle need for Shinshigumi, more GIs.
The munitions point is being
Flood the
attacked.
field with freedom. Archdart for Stephenn here's an interesting pick. Maybe the veteran's vulnerability, maybe there's something else here. Of course, Stephenn does decide he wants a heavy armored car. Of course, he could end up regretting a bit. This is a Pershing once that hits. Of course, typically, going double Stu decent and Archdart is not a common build in my experience. Stephenn, by the way, not really doing much with the rest of his battle group, points there, command points.
Defend our victory
This
point.
is
We're losing
Shinshigumi,
it.
there's certainly to logic he's saving up for that Pershing heavy tank. But for Stephenn, it's not like armored support, has
Victory point is
the
falling
big
into
tank
enemy
for him to
control.
call in there. No King Tiger there. Elephant. Yeah, Panther.
Sector gone. We must take
Nothing.
it back.
So, there's less of an incentive for Stephenn, of course, be flowing that many command points. But, I digress. South side of Ralph's boarding units moving in. 362% of 84. I mean, Shinshigumi has a good lead over Stephenn in terms of
Enemy
victory
movement
points.
near a victory point.
And that squeeze on his opponent there. Go Jeep, feeling the full wrath of the Archdart.
Enemy activity. They have
And it's
taken
time
our
to shoot
victory
whiffs.
point.
Dashing this there out of Shinshigumi. We got half chicken on the flank, not upgraded. We do get some panzer grenades inside of it. Then we got to Stephenn.
The point is being seized by the enemy.
361 was on 83.
It's done, Commander.
Be a bit quiet, Stephen's got some
The
pretty good
munitions point is being attacked.
positions across the map now. The Shinshigumi is hardly out of it.
Cover him!
But crucially, Stephenn is not saying up like, Pershing.
Sector's been overrun.
Some of this tell whereas again, Shinshigumi is saying up for that Pershing heavy tank, so that does mean his economy is a bit on hold. You're going to see more room to just pressure Shinshigumi until that Pershing hits. And ostensibly impossible setting up like a manpower bleed situation. But like Shinshigumi just keeps bleeding as he stalls for the Pershing, which then keeps pushing out, which of course keeps continuing to bleed. It's definitely something you have to keep in mind when installing for like any big tank. It's like you don't end up like that sort of
Defend
negative
our victory
manpower
point.
loop.
We're losing it.
Because you're trying to stall out for the Pershing, means you put more pressure on the infantry. And then before the infantry's bleeding, you can't get the Pershing, means the Pershing takes long to get, and again, that way you just keep bleeding.
Capture
So
a victory point.
that is something you have to keep in mind with grenade assault. So typically you do want like a tank or something else at least help draw far away from the infantry, ensuring you don't like get stuck up in that, manpower lead loop. And negative manpower feedback. Whoa. 34% on 83.
It's on, boys!
About to take out the 250 half unless Stephen has some incredible luck, and can get there we go.
M26
Shinshigumi though
Pershing
here,
tanks are available
24-25
to run
minute
the
mark,
enemy through.
holds in the M26 Pershing in the tank, which, fun fact, was actually originally designed as a medium tank, but they decided to make it into heavy tank. And actually at some point after the war, it would be downgraded to a medium tank. Mark of Faith for Stephen. About to get hit by a Pershing.
A victory point is under enemy control now.
Guns has been hammered by the Pershing. 30 cal on top of the Stu D. In trouble with the Pershing, but got a scout team here. He's got the arc diving into the base of his opponent. Steven seemingly, I think, trying to like just set up a position where like just the Pershing itself individually ends up being like this far down while then Steven deals with the rest of his opponent's force. A bit risky and likely wipe him actually. Which would definitely undercut that planning from Steven, assuming that is the plan. Certainly hard to tarn gas. First, the Pershing, they're obviously just going for the target tank, but I think for Stephen D, Pershing G's might turn better, plus those look really cool. Oh, or perhaps not. Perhaps he's going to do the time to overextend his Pershing, since then blindly arse first, instead from his guns, which is possible. Pershing, but no, he takes out the Marder Fleet, but the Pack 38 takes out the Pershing. Still, that was pretty badly played from Shinshigumi, like moving your Pershing like that. You know, arse first, then it's reversing into like the center of the map, you know your opponent has guns. That was a very bad move, especially now that, you know, rear damage has increased damage. So that was really bad there for Shinshigumi and was, I think, an easily avoidable loss there at the Pershing. Well, win there for Stephen, but for the Americans, that was definitely not a loss of easily avoided.
We're down to 250 points.
Still has a victory point here with Stephen, but again, losing a Pershing like that really puts a bit of an impact on you.
It's done, Commander!
German troops rushing out here. Stephen wants that pressure on his opponent to inflict the harm.
Rifles reinforced.
That's not quite looking at, I think, for him.
Let's tackle the kid.
Keep pulling up.
They shot me in the fucking legs!
Keep rushing in. We got 200 troops on the feet.
200 points remaining on the front line.
It's not in there. That was Stephen.
Routes are securing our capture point.
Almost overtaking Shinshigumi in terms of victory points. Brick for the Americans. Again, isn't that Pershing really just was a sucker punch there to Shinshigumi? Unfortunately, it was very much a self-inflicted sucker punch, which is quite impressive when you think about it.
Told where we're needed.
Further south, and he's going for the southern victory point. So we'll have to see what Shinshigumi does next. We got command tanks, flamethrower tanks here for Stephen. Loiters and Panzer Storm. I mean, Shinshigumi could go for the 50 cal upgrade here for his 30 cal. You know, something handy. I wouldn't be surprised though if Shinshigumi's just like try desperately hold up for another Pershing heavy tank here against Stephen, though of course in that time span he could end up with some trouble here versus the Witchland. Some mechanism there, thumbs up.
A victory point is under attack.
Salvaging the
We
Stu
must
D.
act.
Thumbs up to Stephen.
A victory point has fallen into enemy control.
143 was on 81. Command tank out here for Stephen. The Fields Panzerkampf Wagenfear.
Additional
He's
M26
about to get
Pershings
taken
await
down.
orders.
Here we go. He's going to be having an increased larger number of troubles here with Stephen now. Again, Pershing lost. Really just took, I think, the wind out of the sails. So we'll have to see if Shinshigumi can somehow regain momentum with Stephenn. Moment.
Reporting in.
Because right now he's definitely sort of running out victory points very slowly against his opponent.
Taking losses. They're saying hi, boys.
Something needs to happen, I think, out of Shinshigumi soon. Like, he needs to come up with some maneuver, completely blindsides Paul Stephenn, and turns the game once more into the favor of freedom and democracy. Can Shinshigumi do it? Can he find that spot where, like, he just hits really hard? The entirety of Stephen's forces falls back.
Territory
Can't,
sector
like,
claimed by the enemy.
like they're made out of biscuits or something. We'll have to see.
Finished. What's
At
that?
this point, they could argue and
Defend
just
our
going for
victory
Tiger
point.
Tank.
We're losing it. Riflemen
That
ready.
might be acceptance planning, because if it does go for Tiger Tank, you know, in the near future, and Shinshigumi's going to be in like
Enemy
some
movement
pretty
near a victory point.
hot sores, especially when in fact like he's got the command tank tendency support, sending Tiger Tank. That's going to get really buffed up.
Keep your heads down.
Victory point now under enemy
If
control.
things do get that far, that could arguably be GG right on there for Shinshigumi.
Crack tank is chewing us up.
Because a Tiger Tank spot by command tank is buried.
We need to use our command points.
Then command point control about with Shinshigumi. This is just one of that Pershing is
Lost the territory sector.
nothing else matters to him.
We have 100 points remaining.
100 punches to 81. Marder 3 for Stephenn. Cancel decides, you know what? I can just start my opponent's stuff on fire and go for a flamethrower tank. Thumbs up to Stephenn. Putting one on the bar. Bumping your hand with the Stu D veterans, he 2 got 89 on 81. Odds here for Shinshigumi are starting to look pretty bleak. So we'll have to see if we can do something to turn things around for him, because if he doesn't do that very soon,
Promoted.
it's absolute game over.
Only 75 points left for us. Here we go.
73 points. 71, the clock is ticking. Aggressively. Let's go 250 after against Tangas. Arclight dashing the point stroke here. The 250, it's not the Arclight, because else it would be easily shot at by the triple Tangans and have Shinshigumi forward. Hand of 3 diving end here. Runs near the Tangans. Notice team hadn't realised how many there were, whether fully positioned. Part of him hadn't. And now he's having a very high resolution of flamethrower tank, but the interior positions are actually close to each other. You can actually circle around them with the flamethrower tank. Savvy play there by Stephenn. Unfortunately still gets knocked out. It did highlight a bit of weakness at the current setup of Shinshigumi. Like, if you put those many things like together in like one spot, they are at risk of just getting like circled around and just without being able to like really engage the target. So you do need some distance plates like coverage, of course. Once you get that, flamethrower tank was toast. Wow! Stephenn sending some pretty heavy armor here against Shinshigumi.
Crew killed in action.
And we got another flamethrower tank. No tigers here for Stephenn. What shall Stephenn do next? What will Shinshigumi do next?
50 cal heavy machine guns requisitioned.
50 cals, sprint, and got the artillery there.
We've lost a squad of riflemen at the front.
Rob squad wiped. Really satchel out here for Shinshigumi. This could very well, to be honest, in favor of Stephenn.
Our opponent has all victory
Yep,
points
there we
under
go.
their control.
Shinshigumi calling in
Act now.
GG. Game over. Victory for those Spartans. There you go. I think he just said the Pershing was like a bad unit or something like that. Wow, that's a statement. I think he won't find a lot of people there agreeing with him on. But there you go. Hope you enjoyed this match. I've learned something from it. This is Imperial Links. Cheers, and see you all tomorrow for another exciting episode. Hope you all enjoyed it. Hope to see you all tomorrow again for another episode. Bye, everyone.